here. Our visit to Africa seems to have gotten off to a rough start. My SUV broke down and I'm out in the savannah waiting on a ride. This is pretty cool to watch, huh? But that's not why I'm talking so low. That's why I'm talking so low. Hey, there's my ride. Keep your voice down, explorers, and welcome to Africa.
That was scary, but oh so cool! Glad we're back to safety where we can focus on learning more about this fascinating continent and not worry about being somebody's lunch. Our goals today are simple. We will explore the physical characteristics of the continent, briefly summarize the history of Africa, and analyze Africa's people, culture, and economic structures. Before we begin, please print out the Africa map in the lesson PDF. It might come in handy to help you track today's travels. In fact, take notes on the map to mark important physical characteristics of the continent, okay? Let's get started, shall we? You probably know that Africa is located south of Europe and the Mediterranean Sea. But what you may not know is that a small strip of land in Egypt called the Sinai Peninsula connects Africa to Asia. The Atlantic Ocean lies to the west, while the Indian Ocean forms the eastern border. Two plateaus comprise a majority of Africa. The Sahara Desert lies on a low plateau in the north, while much of southern Africa rests on a higher plateau. Similarly, Africa's terrain features few mountains. The Atlas Mountains in the northwest lie near the Mediterranean. The east has the Ethiopian highlands, and you can find the Drakensberg Mountains, which help form the Great Escarpment, in southern Africa. Did you find those easily on your map? Good. The highest and most prominent point in Africa is Mount Kilimanjaro. At 19,341 feet, it is the tallest freestanding mountain on the Earth's surface. And it's volcanic. Kilimanjaro National Park in Tanzania is a major tourist draw, accessed via the coffee-growing town and safari stop called Moshi. While rivers don't always come to mind when you think of Africa, some of the most famous waterways in the world are here. They include the Nile, which is bordered in places by the pyramids. Just watch out for the hippos. Other notable rivers in Africa include the Niger, the Senegal, and the Congo, all filled with beauty and wonder that you'll find only in Africa. Wow. Speaking of the Congo, Africa's largest contiguous forest lies in the Congo Basin. In fact, it is the second largest tropical rainforest in the world, behind only the Amazon, and is home to western lowland gorillas. The tropical wet climate includes heavy rainfall and high temperatures. Abundant plant and animal life can be found here, including the bonobo ape, elephants, and countless other creatures. A rich variety of wildlife can also be found in the African savanna. A huge grassland with scattered trees, the savanna is warm year-round, but sometimes lacking water, which creates a problem for its inhabitants, which include lions, elephants, zebras, rhinos, cheetahs, ostriches, and giraffes. Who needs a zoo if you're in the African savanna, right? But you'll find little wildlife in the Sahara, the world's largest hot desert. In fact, to understand just how big the Sahara is, know this. The Sahara is about 3.6 million square miles, about 500,000 square miles larger than the 48 contiguous US states. That's a humongous desert. The Sahara has an arid, extremely hot climate that is sparsely populated. Other African deserts include the Kalahari in southern Africa and the Namib along the southwest coast. Also of significance is the beautiful Great Rift Valley. The Great Rift is a tectonic valley that is about 4,000 miles long, stretching from Southwest Asia through Southeast Africa. You might note that on your map. The Great Rift is geologically active, meaning you might find volcanoes and hot springs along the fault while checking out the wildlife on your safari. The world-renowned Serengeti Savanna lies along the Great Rift near Tanzania, as does Olduvai Gorge, discovery site of some of the world's oldest hominid fossils. So, here's a great place to take another look at that map of Africa from the PDF. Can you identify the general area of the Great Rift Valley? I know you see the Sahara Desert. How about the Congo rainforest? What other physical features of Africa can you see? Not bad. Many scientists and archaeologists believe that the first modern humans emerged in Africa more than 100,000 years ago, possibly earlier. They say some migrated away to Southwest Asia, Eastern Europe, and beyond, while others stayed in Africa. Scientists think that some of those people settled in the Nile River Valley in Northeast Africa, where around 3100 BCE the ancient Egyptian civilization began. In addition to awesome achievements such as the pyramids, Egyptian culture had major impacts on later empires, such as the Kush and Aksum in East Africa, the Carthaginians in North Africa, and the Romans in Europe. Other early African civilizations include the Bantu, who developed agriculture and spread the use of iron tools across the continent, Ghana and Mali, great empires south of the Sahara Desert who traded salt and gold, Great Zimbabwe in southern Africa, the Yoruba in modern Nigeria, and empires who expanded Islamic influence across northern Africa. Around 1500 CE, as explorers such as Columbus were heading to the Americas, Europeans began trading guns and goods along the Atlantic coast for gold and ivory. Soon, those guns were used by some African tribes to capture others, who were then sold and shipped to the Americas as slaves. European influence continued into the 1800s as nations began establishing colonies in Africa to secure raw materials and markets for European goods. Without any regard for the inhabitants or existing political and cultural divisions, European nations divided the continent for their own purposes. During that time, Europeans brought to Africa new ideas such as highways and railroads, built for the extraction of raw materials, as well as educational opportunities and technology. By the 1960s, most former colonies had won independence from their European colonizers. Changes continue as new countries are formed, but the legacy of colonialism contributed greatly to the widespread poverty as little structure for success was in place for self-rule. The new nations generally maintained colonial borders, but ethnic turmoil and military conflict developed both between nations and within them. So, given what we know about its history, do you think more changes are likely in Africa? Yeah, I think more changes are coming too. As of 2022, Africa has a population of more than 1.2 billion people, much of that a result of a massive growth spurt in recent decades. It is both the continent with the youngest average age and the fastest growing population. In 1950, the continent was home to just 177 million. If you're doing the math, that means that the population is 7 times as large as it was during the mid-20th century. While the global average birth rate for women is 2.5 children, African females bear an average of almost 5 children. 25% of the world's newborn deaths occur in Africa. That sad statistic is mostly a result of health problems created by unsafe drinking water, unreliable health care, and sanitation issues. In many places, women and children carry containers for miles just to retrieve drinking water for the day. While the continent has a population density of about 87 people per square mile, most of the people live in the Nile Valley, Nigeria, the East African highlands, or along the coast. So, why do most Africans live in those areas? You may want to look at your map from the PDF and compare it to this one. You got it! Places such as the Sahara Desert, the Congo rainforest, and the Savannah are mostly inhospitable for humans. You probably see a correlation between this map and the physical map from the PDF, huh? African culture is complicated. A huge range of peoples and languages create a vast cultural complex on the continent, including a legacy of European influence in several areas. In North Africa, Berbers and Arabs maintained strong cultural ties to Southwest Asia, including Islamic beliefs. South of the Sahara, more than 2,000 languages can be heard. Of these, Swahili is the most prominent, with an estimated 150 million speakers. A multitude of cultural traditions can be found across the continent, including a renewed pride in African history and spiritualism called the African Renaissance. Music, dance, and art are especially important in African culture. The continent also has a strong tradition of oral history, handed down for generations. Soccer is the most popular sport here, as 54 nations participate in the Confederation for African Football. Perhaps the most telling statistic regarding Africa and its current economic state is this. As of 2021, the average GDP per capita for the world is $11,570. The average GDP per capita in Africa is less than a fifth of that, at $1,860. That number is by far the poorest among the continents. In fact, the continent with the second lowest GDP per capita, South America, is still well over 3 times that of Africa. So, why are the economic conditions in Africa so bleak? First, the most common economic activities are nomadic herding and subsistence farming. But land degradation is negatively affecting those endeavors. Soil leaching, erosion, and deforestation continue to damage the earth. And poverty and the population growth forces people to overuse resources. When European colonies ruled Africa, they were interested only in extracting wealth from the continent's vast resources. When African nations achieved independence, the infrastructure in place was designed for that purpose, not growth to benefit the people who lived there. Many have migrated to cities for work in manufacturing and service industries, causing overcrowding in urban areas. Pollution and crime are on the rise as well. The future could lie in the massive resources to be found on the continent. Gold, diamonds, and petroleum are abundant. More than 90% of the world's platinum, cobalt, and chromium are believed to lie under the African soil. While resources are plentiful, so too are issues such as tribal and military conflicts, corrupt governments, and human rights violations. Based on what we've learned today, in your opinion, what is the biggest problem facing Africa at this time? Interesting. Africa has many issues to be addressed, huh? The African Union, a continental alliance of 55 member nations, was formed in 2001 in an attempt to improve conditions on the continent. It seems to be a step in the right direction. If the AU is able to instill a sense of unity among those African nations and cultures, it could certainly go a long way in brightening the future of this wondrous continent. Time's up for today, but more African adventures are on the way. Join us and let's keep exploring.
Hey!